Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all of the praises and the glory to the Most High and His Son, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakah HaKwadash, and double honors to the elder apostles of the great millstone that have taught us this truth through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai. And so I say to include the elder bishops on down too, right along with them, and Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Brakatham, to you brothers out there of the hopeful elect, and it's your brother Laban. And this is going to be a part 2 to the last video that I did in regards to 2nd Ezra's 16 and verse 38 concerning the plagues that have hit this earth and will continue to hit this earth until the time of the Lord's return. And so shall we go through these things, and in those things that we're going to go through is going to lead to our salvation, And I want to read the book of Daniel 12 and verse 1 as this reads, the time of the end. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, and such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, and every one that shall be found written in the book. So how are we going to know that we're in a time of trouble? Because there's going to be things that are going to be happening on the earth, which is going to show the servants, the prophets, that we're in the end, as well as it's written in the book of 2nd Ezra, the 9th chapter. And what I want to do is I want to read this as well, as it is also written, to be exact. And it's this over here, verse 5 to verse 7. For like as all that is made in the world have a beginning and an end, and the end is manifest, even so the times also of the highest have plain beginnings, in wonders and powerful works, ending in effects and signs. And every one that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works and by faith whereby ye believed. Let me finish it off on the 8th verse. Shall be preserved from the said perils, and shall see my salvation in my land within my borders, for I have sanctified them for me from the beginning. So let's go up to verse 6 as it is written. We're going to read this again. Even so the times also of the highest have plain beginnings, in wonders and powerful works, and ending in effects and signs. So we're going to see the ending in effects and the signs at the last point of the ending of the civilization. So as it is also written, that in the book of Zechariah 13 and 9, it mentions that the third part shall be tried in the fire. In other words, Jacob's trouble, the affliction we're going to have to go through. So let me read this. And at that time, once again, shall Michael stand up, the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time, thy people shall be delivered, and every one that shall be found written in the book. Okay, those that are written in the book of life, they're going to have to go through these signs and the effects of the end. So all of these plagues, which are nothing more than a contraction, which is going to birth in the returning of our Lord and our Savior, which he will bring the kingdom. We're going to have to go through these things. And so once we enter into the other side, which is the kingdom of heaven, all of those things are going to be forgotten about. All right. So what I want to do is I want to go back and read this again. As when a woman with child in the 9th month bringeth forth her sons, with 2 or 3 hours of her birth, great pains compass her womb, which pains when the child cometh forth, they slack not a moment. Even so shall not the plagues be slack that come upon the earth. And the world shall mourn, and sorrows shall come upon it on every side. And that's what we're seeing on the earth. We're seeing people protesting, rioting, different parts all around the world. Okay, as well as We've also seen people getting shot, people like Charlie Kirk, and so many other things. All right. And it's as if like you got to keep your eyes glued to what's going on, because if you don't, then you miss everything. If you miss one thing, then you miss a whole lot, because there's so much things happening at all given time, and there's even things that are happening beyond our eyes. So it may seem like, oh man, ain't shit happening much, but no, a whole lot is happening. If you're tuned into the spirit and you're watching, then you can clearly see that. All right. And if you're centrally paying attention, you can feel it in your senses that something don't feel right. When you go outside, it feels airy. It feels like something is going to come. Something big is going to happen. Right. So if you're tuned in, then you're tuned in, basically. So let's read on some more. Even so shall not the place be slack to come upon the earth, and the world shall mourn, and sorrow shall come upon it on every side. And the world is in a very sorrowful place all around, and it's going to become more sorrowful before it all gets better. O my people, hear my word, and make you ready to thy battle, and those evils be even as pilgrims upon the earth, which I've already went into that on my last video. But the slacks are not coming. So as well as a woman gives birth, in the process, she goes through these contractions and these pains. And then it gets to a point where the baby is delivered and all of that is forgotten about. So when the kingdom is set up, we're going to be in peace. And all of those things are going to be forgotten about. All of the cursing that we had to experience in this life is going to be well forgotten about. All right. So I want to read this because I've already quoted it, but I can read it again. And I'm going to read verse 9. And I will bring the third part through the fire, and I will refine them as silver is refined. And I will try them as gold is tried, and they shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, the Lord Yahweh is my power. So Jacob's trouble is going to do away with all of the rudiments of wickedness that lies within, all of that dross. We're going to be made bare, and we're going to be purged from our wickedness. And those that have overcame and went through this time, that's when it's going to be well known and declared who were the Lord's chosen. And that's the reason why, one of the reasons why we're going to be tried. And that trial is coming right around the corner. Down there in the UK, as everybody now knows, everyone's talking about the digital IDs, which will be, more so in place in 2029. And as they say, but from that time, between now and the time which is to come, could very well pave the way for the mandatory chipping. There's plenty of people that have had visions of that, as that's written in the book of Joel, the second chapter. How people have had visions of Jacob's trouble. People have had visions of people lining up to get chipped, and so many other things alluding to the end. Okay, so it's very certain that what we've been telling the world, our people to be exact, is what's soon to come. It is certain to come. Let's even include martial law. Well, that encompasses Jacob's trouble, so I don't have to mention that. So we're going to be tried. The elect are going to be tried and overcome. And that's how we're going to be made to be pure through suffering. Just like Yahushua was pure through suffering, through dying off the cross. He was made clean after that. So we're going to have to go through that. We're going to have to arm. The scripture says, arm yourselves likewise. So we're going to have to go through our purging process, the purging process, which is going to be in this time. And I'm going to go into that as well. That could very well be another lesson for another time, Lord willing. All right. Acts 14 and verse 22, confirming the souls of the disciples and exhorting them to continue in the faith, and that we must through much tribulation enter into the kingdom of heaven. into the kingdom of the Most High. And so that ties into what? The straight gate that Yahweh Shai was speaking about in the book of Matthew 7. In verse 14, because straight is the gate, and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. So this truth, when you come into it, is going to be hard from the beginning, and it's going to be hard to the end. And when the more you go through it, the more harder it's going to get. Especially when you get to the last level of fulfilling your role of or almost finishing your course, so to speak. Just like, for example, when the Apostle Paul was about to get beheaded for what he believed in, what did he say? He knew that he was going to depart, that his departure was at hand, and the last part of fulfilling the will of the Lord, or fulfilling his mission, so to speak, he had to go through that. Okay, so some of us were going to have to die, or probably most of us are going to have to die for what we believe in, and that's going to be the hardest part, because we're going to have to look death in the face and have faith to believe that we can go through that, just like the anointed one did. All right. So the mentality you got to have the mentality of, I'm willing to go through anything it takes. And even if death, if it's apparent, then that's just what it's going to have to be. And really, there's no such thing as death for the righteous, but rather everlasting life, as that was promised. Yahweh Shai promised everlasting life in various different places in the Old Testament, and as well as the New Testament more so. Okay, so we're going to be going from one situation to another situation. Death is just so-called death is just the transitioning from one realm to another realm. And that's all the righteous are ever going to really experience. It's going from death to life. And that's really what Yahweh Shai exemplified when he died on that cross. Because before the cross, yeah, he was not a sinner at the time, but yet and still he had to die for the sins of the world and to die for his own sins. All right. He still suffered, even though he was not a sinner in that lifetime when he was to play as the lamb. But still, he had to go through what he had to go through because of what he did in his past life. So he died for his sins. Just like the example, Hebrews 7 and verse 27, which this is referring to Yahweh Shai, right? You know what I could do? I could start by reading, let me see. Yeah, Hebrews 7 and verse 22. But the point is in verse 27. By so much was Yahweh Shai made a surety of a better testament. And they truly were many priests, because they were not suffered to continue by reason of death. But this man, because he continueth ever, have an unchangeable priesthood, and wherefore he is able also to save them to the uttermost that come unto the Most High by him, seeing he ever liveth to make intercession for them. Exactly. For such an high priest became us, who is holy, harmless, undefiled. Let me read that again. That's heavy. For such an high priest became us, who is holy, harmless, undefiled, separate from sinners, and made higher than the heavens. That's why he said, ye are from beneath and I am from above. Who needeth not daily, as those high priests, to offer up sacrifice, first for his own sins, and then for the people's. For this he did once when he offered up himself. So this is what he did. So he died for his sins, even though at that time he was not a sinner, but he had to die for the sins that he committed in his past life. And that's why he was having to be the one to be the sacrificial lamb, and also for the people. And Hebrews 7 and 27 ties into the law of Leviticus 9 and 7. As this reads, and this is what Aaron did, if I'm correct, in Leviticus 16, from verse 6 to verse 11. As this reads, and Moses said unto Aaron, go unto the altar and offer thy sin offering and thy burnt offering, and make an atonement for thyself. Leviticus 9 and verse 7. And Moses said unto Aaron, go unto the altar and offer thy sins offering and thy burnt offering, and make an atonement for thyself and for the people, and offer the offering of the people, and make an atonement for them, as the Lord Yahweh commanded. Right. So he made an atonement for himself and as well as toward the people. And this is something that Yahweh Shai practiced when he died on that cross. He made an atonement for his sins and atonement unto the people. It's primarily the elect and then the rest of the nation. All right. So that's why we have to believe in Yahweh Shai to get through all of these various things, which really, it relates to death. All of the things that's coming upon us, which relates to death. The only way we can overcome it is by believing in Yahweh Shai. He's our spiritual power to get through the times of death and destruction. So now what I want to do is I want to switch the topic to something totally different. And I want to get into this article over here, which reads, ADL declares criticizing Israel is now a capital offense in America. They told you it was about hate. They told you it was about extremism. But behind the curtains, something much darker is unfolding. Lists being built in secret, tracking everyone who dares to question their power. The ADL isn't just a watchdog. It's an intelligence arms of foreign government, profiling Americans, shaping narratives, deciding who gets to speak and who disappears. So now what I want to do is I want to go and see if there's like a, okay, well, you know what, let me just read this whole thing because there's a particular point in this article that is interesting indeed. So I want to get into that, but we're gonna begin where we left off at though. Yeah, so, and when Netanyahu declares the internet's Israel's new battleground, it's not just a line, it's a warning. Critics won't be debated, they'll be erased, lives rewritten, voice buried. Because this war isn't fought with tanks or missiles anymore, it's fought with data, surveillance, and fear. And the question isn't if they'll come for you, the question is, will you be ready when they do? Today's video is brought to you by VPNet, the only VPN I trust to keep my data private. VP.net is built with unbreakable zero logging architecture. That means hostile states like Israel can't spy on you no matter how hard they try. Their support also really helps, keeps this channel. Yeah, that's going into something else. All right, so you know what I'm going to do? What I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go all the way down. And there's a point that I want to read. Just to get to the point here. Yes, this is the point that I wanted to read right over here. But you know what I'll do is I'll begin by reading this part of the sentence. Yeah. Okay, let me read this. The CEO finally slipped. The mask came off for a moment and the truth showed through. He forgot the script, as the script is written, that their tongues shall fall upon themselves. Forgot what country he was supposed to be speaking for. And in that moment, we saw it. The organization that called itself American is serving another master altogether. Right, yeah, because the thing with America has been built for the sole purpose of serving the interest of Israel to begin with anyway. And so that's why they're doing that right now. And people are just now realizing that later date. The ADL is now attempting to rewrite history and build a narrative against Christians and against conservatives, branding those with Christian identity as dangerous extremists and framing the Bible itself. And that's the point. And framing the Bible itself is hate speech, right? Because the Bible is not going along with what they're about. All right. As well as it's also written too that this man transgressive by wine. So he does not agree. The so-called white man's ways, beginning with the JOO wishes, they don't agree. Their spirit does not agree with the Bible. If you put these levels on the scrutiny, what you would find out is that they're a breaker of the Lord's laws. And that's why the earth is under a curse today. Because they have their own way, and as well as it's written that they go as estranged, going forth, speaking lies. Why do they speak lies? Because their whole existence is that of a lie. All right, their whole existence is to project a lie and to have you live under the same. So when the world lives under lies and pseudoscience, now everyone has to suffer the consequences of this stuff. All right, which science is another way of saying knowledge. And that's what the world is under right now. The world is under a different form of knowledge, which is against the nature of life itself. And that's why we're all sick and lean, and the whole earth is suffering due to that. Okay, and that's why this man has to come out of power. That's why we got to be praying for the downfall and the ending of the civilization, because the longer we stay here is the highly likely, is the guarantee likely, let me say it that way, we're all going to be dead before you know it. All right, because this man is on a death path, man. He's on a war path against life. And the reason why he wants to declare truth is hate speech, and probably get to that point of deeming the Bible as hate speech, because really what it boils down to is the fact that they're losing the war on information. There's more truths that are being revealed than there's lies that's shooting forth throughout these various mainstream media pundits that people no longer subscribe to like they used to anymore. That's really what's happening. That's the absolute truth of the matter. So as this reads over here from the AI overview, information war or information warfare, and that's what it is. They're losing on the informational warfare, which they try to wage against the people for good. But as the saying goes, you can fool the people one time, but you can't fool the people all the time. So people are beginning to wake up from the lies. And now they're coming up with their own versions of how they see the world and how they see things transpiring from what was told to them. And they're telling their narratives. People are beginning to have the free will or the sense of feeling to be inspired by other people by setting up various different channels and sharing their own personal views of how they see things, because they themselves are being affected by this altogether. So more people are becoming more subscripted to the truth rather than being subscripted to lies. And it's changing things around. It's turning things upside down to these devils and right side up to those that believe in the truth, which the true truth is. The ultimate truth is really us anyway. Okay, just to put that out there. But anyway, it's a strategic use of information and communication, ICT, information and communication technology to gain a competitive advantage over an adversary by affecting their information and information systems while defending one's own. And that's exactly what it is. To have the over advantage over the adversary. Who is the adversary of the elite? The average person. So we're the enemy. So if we go against the grain, then yes, that's what we are. We're the adversary. But if we go along with it, then we're in agreement. And that's what they want. They want us to agree with everything that they do and to see it their own way, which is warped. Job 5 and verse 12. He disappointed the devices of the crafty, and so that their hands cannot perform their enterprise. And what is their ultimate enterprise? Their New World Order system. That's why there's been a lot of pushback in regards to the digital ID, which most people are going to have to agree to it anyway, because they ain't going to have no choice. But I'm just mentioning that just to convey the point that most people are not easily going along with what they're being told by the government to do. All right. And as time progresses, it's just going to get thicker in regards to the tensions between the people and their government. And there's going to be fightings. It's not going to just be an easy thing. Okay, so as they're processing their new world order, it's just becoming more difficult for them to persuading people. But they're going to get it done because guess what? Prophecy needs to be fulfilled. And it's only to do with the will of the Lord. It's not to do with their will. The reason why the Lord is going to allow them to forward their new world order to a particular point or limit is so that the invitation of the implantable device can be. And that's when the Lord is going to pretty much throw a monkey wrench in their plans altogether. And everything's just going to be dysfunctional from that point. Second Ezra 6 and verse 28. And as for faith, it shall flourish. Corruption shall be overcome. And the truth, which have been so long without fruit, shall be declared. And that's the time that we're in today, is that corruption shall be overcome. So that's why they're having a very difficult time right now processing their enterprise, because there's a lot of pushback verbally online, and people have signed petitions saying that they're against the digital IDs and these sort of things that Esau's pushing out there, you know, for the sake of completing their one world system. So as this reads, he taketh the wise in their own craftiness, and the counsel of the froward is carried headlong, meaning they're in panic mode now. Let's look up this word headlong, which is macha, or they have maha, salakia, maha. Yeah, so the word is to hasten, to be hurried, to be anxious, hasty, precipitate, impetuous. Let's go into the Strong's definition. Properly to be liquid or flow easily. By implication to hurry, in a good or bad sense, often used. To be carried headlong, fearful, cause to make haste. Quickly, rash, shortly, soon, make speed, speedily, straightway, suddenly, swift. Yeah, so right about now, they're in anxiousness of a mode of mind, and that's why they're stepping it up a notch. But as they're doing that, mistakes are going to be made, and somehow, some way, it ain't going to go through properly. Their enterprise, it's not going to go through correctly. All right, and the ultimate reason why it ain't gonna go through the way that they see it anyway, because the will of the Lord is to have it so that there is going to be a one world order, which is going to be under the saints, and it ain't going to be under the devil. That's not the will of the Lord. The will of the Lord is to establish the just, and that the meek shall inherit the earth. And under the meek, which will be the Israelites, that's who's going to be governing the entire globe of all nations. And it's just going to be one doctrine under heaven, which is going to be the doctrine proceeding from the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and also through his son, whom we call Yahweh Shai, whom we proudly call him, who is Yahweh Shai, and no other name. All right? So that's the only thing that's going to be proceeding, man. So that's the new world order that's going to be set up. The actual new world order. But Esau's new world order is pseudo. It's not real. It's just a figment of one's imagination that they have in mind. All right. So that's the time that we're experiencing. We're experiencing corruption being overcome, because now you have a lot of truth that's being declared. And so once again, just to read this, as for faith it shall flourish, corruption shall be overcome, and the truth which have been so long without fruit shall be declared. And that's the time we're in. People are no longer taken to corruption like they used to anymore. You got the average everyday John and Jane doing a TikTok video, quoting scriptures about what they see, which is about to happen. And then as you hear them talk long enough, you can tell who they've been listening to. So corruption, as it is written, shall be overcome, and the true which have been so long without fruit shall be declared. And what's being declared ultimately is that we are now again the sons of God, the Israelites. So just based on a spiritual level, we've overcome lies. So we can overcome lies because of the power of our Lord. Then we can overcome Esau's bullshit in Jacob's trouble. So that's all I got to say. And with that, I'm going to give all of the praises and the glory to the Most High and His Son, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakah Kwadash. And with that, I'm out. I close. Shalom.